All right. We're here catching up with Coach JT. We're here with Principal Spike Cook from Lakeside Middle School here in Millville. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Principal Spike Cook?
Well, thanks again for having me on. I love what you're doing in the community, JT. I love now what you're doing, using the different tools and things like that are out there to keep connecting with us. So once again, just want to start out by thanking you for having me on. My name is Spike Cook. I'm principal at Lakeside Middle School. I've been there for about 4 years now. I've been in the Millville School District since 2011, so about 9 years. I was 5 years over at Bacon Elementary School, and who am I? I'm a father. I'm a son. I'm a brother, and all different types of things. I would say, as far as who I am, but I would say. I'm definitely somebody who I like to think outside the box. I like to take chances and try to do things differently. And and I also love working with people. I've always had an interest of working in education, working with people to try to to make things better. And I guess that's a little bit about me and and my background.
Awesome.
I've done a lot of different things in education. I've been a substitute teacher. I've been a teacher. I've been a guidance counselor, vice principal. I worked at Rowan University for a year as a director there, and then now as a principal. And I'm an adjunct professor now as well. I've been doing that for the last couple of years. So, a bunch of different assets, like different, positions throughout the years that have allowed me to have a really good perspective, I think, on, on education, on teaching, learning, community. I think it's all part of, of one big, one big system.
Nice. Awesome. So what do you think drove or / inspired you to get into education?
Well, I will say when I was in K to 12 education, I had no interest at all at ever becoming an educator. I went through school and I didn't really know much about what I wanted to do at all. I was very unmotivated, unfocused. I just didn't have, I didn't have anybody, kind of working with me. I was just, somebody just like kind of got regular, average grades and, didn't have much direction. And then I remember, everybody in high school started talking about, what they were going to be doing next. And I went to my guidance counselor and I was like, all these kids are talking about college. Maybe I should go to college. And he talked with me about the EOF program. So I had never heard about that before, but since, my mom, a single mom, we qualify for it financially. So it's the Education Opportunity Fund. And I remember him saying that, if you get accepted to this, you'll get accepted to college, but you have to go through a 6-week program and it's really tough. And he even said, he's like, you're going to go through, with some tough kids as well from all different types of backgrounds and things like that. So, and it was great. It was great for me to get involved in that. So I met a guy there who later became my mentor. His name was Bill Myers, and he was one of the EOF counselors. And he always encouraged me to get involved with different things and taught me about, leadership and how to be a good role model and mentor. And so I worked the program for a couple of years while I was in college, and, it really just was something that I like kind of came out, and I got way more focused on, what I wanted to do as a emerging, educator. And I credit a lot of my interest in education to him. He unfortunately had passed away. But think about him all the time. And, and I always think about, all the different mentoring opportunities that I got because I didn't even know about that until I was in college. We would go out to local high schools, and work with students. And he, called it mentoring. I never even knew what that was, and then I was in the educational world, and I really enjoyed that, you just giving back and helping out.
Nice. Awesome. That's cool stuff, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely good. So what has been some of the pitfalls of teaching? Like what do you have discovered is like the hardest thing about teaching?
Well, I think definitely, it's changing. It's not necessarily, what a lot of us got into,
Mm.
um, I mean, I don't feel like I'm that old, but 20, 25 years ago, I just feel like teachers were looked at differently, like in society, in budgets, which is extremely important. And also like, respect from community, parents, teacher, or, parents, students. And I think some of that has kind of eroded over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely think that's one of the biggest challenges. I mean, honestly, and I'm sure a lot of people agree with that. I don't feel like the the funding that goes to public education is quite where it could be. Especially you take a place like Millville. Over the last several years that I've been there, it's just been budget cut after budget cut after budget cut, and what that does is it takes away the amount of people that are working with the students, and as we see now, and doing remote learning, everyone's seeing that it's not an easy job,
No.
it's not an easy job, and so I'm hoping, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about remote learning and COVID and all that stuff, but I'm hoping one of the things that come out of this is that people can then see, what, maybe we do need to look at our funding formula a little bit differently. And we also need to look at, how we are treating and our teachers, because I remember, like, when all this started, there was a lot of funny things that were coming out on social media, like, I'm now the teacher, and,
Yeah.
they got getting the kids woken up early and getting their assignments and stuff. And the stuff that would follow after that were hilarious. Like, putting discipline referrals up, like,
Yeah.
like the second or third day, like, I'm tired of it. Teachers don't get paid enough. I want school to go back. Like, it was really funny. Like, I felt like we all like could kind of, laugh together and be like, on the same page. And it kind of brought, parents and educators together, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean, as far as pitfalls, that's definitely, the budgetary thing. And also just the respect thing. I mean, we talk a lot about that at Lakeside, and having worked at, middle schools. I mean, I worked in Camden before, I worked at Delsey. I've seen different types of middle schools, and, getting Lakeside, it was a bit eye opening, because, you have a lot of kids who are, they're going through their adolescent time, and, the respect that used to be showed just from the door is no longer there. It just makes things a little bit more difficult, when you're trying to, motivate students, when you're trying to teach them about different things, when they have this attitude of, like, they don't care, they don't have to respect this person, that those type of things, and that it impacts us a lot.
Yeah, I bet, man.
That's why I reach out to you and to some other community members to, see what we can do to kind of, bring it around, because I think I see the great things that you're doing, and that your organizations are doing. And but it's interesting, because you've even said, like, you kind of face the same type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same stuff in coaching, man. Like you said, the respect factor. It's hard to get people on that wavelength. Because it's like I think people don't know how to separate. You know, um, uh, I'm trying to find the best way to put it. It's like to the point where they don't have to approach me and you the same way, with this
Mm-hmm.
aggression or, negativity, like, I guess it's hard to be seen as like a person as genuine or an advocate. So I think people have been hurt so much and misled so much and kind of taken advantage of in a sense that I guess a lot of people have trust issues. So when they see people coming, they're like, hey, I actually want to help out. I think people are reserved a lot, so it takes a long time to kind of build that bridge up and a trust factor, but I always try to get people to understand, like, I understand what you're going through. You don't have to approach me um, in a negative type of way or an aggressive type of way. Learn how to separate the two,
Mm-hmm.
and understand, like, when you're coming from place to place, like whether you go to school or whether you come to organized sport, it has to be some type of structure, so that's one of the things that I find is hard about coaching from time to time. It's like I think people just kind of mesh everything together, and it's like I don't need to separate the coach or the teacher. They're just a regular individual, but they have to understand, for the time being, the title that you house, has to be in a sense respected.
Mm-hmm.
You can have some type of influence on the child, because if they say, if the kids see that, hey, they're not really giving this man or this lady the time of day, then the kids usually reflect that. And
Yeah.
a lot of people don't understand that the kid kind of feed off of, how you approach the situation or individual.
Yeah, and I don't know what changed. And we've had conversations about this before, where it's like, it really wasn't that long ago where we were both involved in youth sports and things like that, and it was just different. It really was. I mean, it was just like, that was your coach. You're supposed to respect him. And yes, there has been a lot of things that have happened over the years. It's kind of eroded that, and same thing with education. I mean, you could read article after article about this, that, and the other thing going on. And, it's kind of eroded the trust and things like that. So I think with all that, I mean, you still have, you know, um, the opportunity to make a difference. And I've done, coaching as well. I coached my son's basketball team for a few years,
Not,
when he was coming up, and then I spent a lot of time on the sidelines for my daughter, who played soccer. And I've seen really great things, and I've seen like the worst in people too. And I'm not talking about the kids, like, I've been on the sidelines just watching regular soccer games and seeing, kids crying because of the way that their parents are yelling at them, and it's just, it's really disappointing, so you take all that, and like you said, how kids are being, sort of, without even understanding it, sort of conditioned to how to look at adults, and then
yeah,
it's really difficult. So then you take all those different variables, and then you have 20 kids who are coming into your class, and then you got to teach them math, or you got to teach them science, and just think about how difficult that is. Getting back to even that whole thing about, parenting and teaching and remote learning. It's like,
yep,
a lot of people are like, wow, I only have like one or two kids here, and they're my kids, and they're driving me crazy. It's like, what is that like when there's, 20, 25 kids in there? And, obviously kids are different too, when they're around their peers. They're looking for different things, and they're getting, and we understand all that, peer attention and things like that. And adolescence, I think, is probably the toughest,
yeah,
toughest, for sure. I think we understand all that. And, I give all of our teachers a lot of credit, because we do a lot of work on, social emotional learning, and, trying to make, how do you make connections with students? Like, we realize that learning is secondary to the connections. The learning is secondary to, to the respect, and to building that community. But I'm not gonna lie, it's just getting tougher and tougher each year. So the way that I look at those things, getting back to like what you said about pitfalls, and kind of bringing it full circle, is like, so that's our incentive then. Like, how do we change, how do we adapt? And I'm going to tell you, a lot of us have done a lot of reflection over this time, where we're not in the physical building anymore, about the importance of, you know where students are coming from, meeting them where they're at, as opposed to us teaching the kid, teaching the subjects.
Mm-hmm.
We should be focusing on teaching the kids, so this has really made us really think a lot about the different things that are going on, because each week we do, throughout this time we've been doing staff meetings online, and the teachers have had to learn like so many new things, like in just a couple of days and things like that. But the stories though of going out to houses and meeting with families who are having difficulties during this time, and then sharing not the specifics, but just the whole sort of the backdrop of all that for our staff has really allowed them to think like, wow, like we have to really get to like what's most important here. So maybe that's something that we were missing, as educators, like, because we're always forced to, we got to get the test scores up, and we got to do, more with less. And then maybe we were forgetting what the kids were saying to us, meaning like, you need to understand who I am first before I can, learn together. So like I said, it's been a great opportunity for us to reflect.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, moving forward, what are some of the positives and the negatives that you see in the city of Millville with the youth, and how do you think we can fix that moving forward to make a better city and society for our youth?
Well, I will say that I feel like in the time that I've been in Millville, like I said, it's just a little bit over 9 years, I've seen a lot of change and a lot of positive things. Because I think that through community involvement, through just the different programs that are out there that weren't there a few years ago, it just seems as though there's a real positive force in the city right now. And I think a lot of it had to do with the work that you guys are doing with PAL, and getting the sports programs reignited, and getting the kids involved in activities outside of school, mentoring and things like that, and the different activities. Because as like, our day ends at 3:30, 4 o'clock, and then it's like, what are the kids going to do between then and in the evening? And I think that it just seems like there's more and more things that are available for kids, and it just seems like it's just multiplying every year, every season. Even so much as the work that you guys are doing to try to get some sort of like community center and things like that. It just seems like those conversations are going on, as opposed to people pointing fingers at each other. They're like, seems to be working together, and that's like from the police, from the city government, community involvement, businesses. It just seems like that there's a real hopefulness there, and that's exciting. Because then it's not just this person doing the work and that person doing the work. It seems like it's very much like everybody's doing it collaboratively. And, so I think when you look at that, only great things are gonna come of that, and I think those other things are going to come along, where, you get the community center, and you get the, additional, facilities, or whatever it is that you need in order to make it happen, for the kids. And then I think, probably the next step after that is like the economic revival, getting more businesses and things like that, which I know that Millville's done, a lot of work to try to get it. It's just like, sometimes it was the economy, sometimes, it's other factors, but I think, like we did a lot of work with the Millville Neighborhood Alliance, and Kim Ayers and her group, and it was great because like they approached us, we want to get into the schools more, and then we could we were doing projects, up until unfortunately we had to go out, but like them working with our kids on like what things that they want to fix in the community, So then you have that going on, and then you have the other activities. So it's like so many great things going on. It's a great place to work. It's a great place to live. There's so many different opportunities.
Yeah.
So I think the sky is the limit. I mean, some of the pitfalls, it's always going to be, there's always going to be, the naysayers or things like that. And I think probably some of the things that you see as well is like you do see some people who, might live there for a few years and then they move on to another place. So you're hoping for them to stay, and be able to stick it out, because it's like, it's there, it's right there, so that's what I think about. I'm very proud, to work in Millville. I'm very proud of the things that are going on in that city. And, I sing his praises all the time, because it's, there's just something really unique about it,
Yep. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for taking the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. I mean, so what are some things that you see, coming down the line? I know that, like we've talked a lot. I know that, we're going to, hopefully once we get back into the swing of things, doing some work together, but, what are some things that you're seeing, in the future, in the short term, long term, for Millville?
Yeah, just like you said, furthering youth sports and mentoring programs and things like that. And then, different places that I know are starting to feed people and job placement type organizations, that's coming along. Iron Sharpens Iron is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Other one is Inspiring You Family Center, and they do a lot of good work, as far as, building, like a good foundation for people, where they can get fed on a regular, housing assistance, job assistance. I think that's the type of things that will, propel the city to move forward. Because just like you said, instilling that hope, where there's hopelessness, when people just see that, these are genuine individuals from the community that just want to give back. And, regardless of, a person's background, ethnic group, they all treated the same. And I just,
Mm-hmm.
I see, a lot of people are starting to really catch on. I think COVID has helped too, with diversity being key in it all. It can't be one race, or a certain group of people. It just has to be all of us pulling together. And I'm starting to see that, across the board. People are dropping a lot of barriers and just trying to get the job done, to make a better society for all of us. And I just hope that we can continue to move in that direction, because I think it'll trickle down to the youth. I know I had a statement from the police chief, and I know he said even on the youth crime level, has dropped, and he gives that credit to a lot of the things that we are doing with the mentoring programs.
I'm sure.
Yep.
That's amazing. That's also that. Like then you see like the data that supports that, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
amazing.
And that's
So here's my question for you then. So you've asked me a lot of questions. I've always wondered all the different things that you're involved in. When do you sleep?
actually, I actually pretty get a good night's sleep usually. I'm usually down like about 10 o'clock, but just technology has made it easier, just the smartphones and tablets and things like that. And then I usually try not to involve myself in something where I know I'm not going to have the interest. So that's what kind of keeps me going. Like, I love sports and everything myself and mentoring, because I know, like, looking back how important that was to me as a youth. And I just try to look back at the things that I know growing up, in a rough neighborhood that I wanted, I always wished for. And a lot of times, adults were overlooking, I thought, what I actually wanted. Like sometimes, when I ask the youth questions, and I tell them, I said, I understand how it is. Sometimes we may think that y'all want apples, and you're saying, no, I want an orange. So it's just about listening to what they have to say, and I think that's what kind of keeps me going. Not overextending myself to something that I know is is going against the grain per se, that I know I'm going to be like, nah, I'm not really feeling that. So I usually try to get in things that I know is going to push me and keep me going, and that way I can multitask. And I usually try to intertwine everything together so that way it can complement each other. So like coaching, I can also mentor at the same time, and then build different relationships, and I'll kind of build sub programming, through things that I'm already involved in. So that's pretty much how I kind of get it done.
And it seems like you also you involve your kids in a lot of things too. So it's not like necessarily time away from your family. And, I just knowing you more on a personal level too. I mean, I know we always joke about, how much stuff that you're involved in, but you also have a lot of time too, where I notice that you spend it just with your kids and your family and stuff like that. And that's so important, because, as the kids get older, like my kids are, oh goodness, they're going to be 16 and 13 in June. And it's like, man, those elementary years were awesome. They always wanted to be with you, always want to hang out and stuff. And then, as they get older, they don't necessarily want to. And then you got to think about it too, from the, like you said, the youth perspective, you only have a few years to really make that big difference. And then they kind of, cause we all went through it. You start having to make your own choices. So,
Yeah.
you do a great job of balancing and the work-life balance that we always talk about. Cause if not, you get burned out and then you're not effective anymore, so, picking and choosing what things you want to get involved in and probably, and I know if you're like me, it's like, it's hard to say no,
Yeah.
but you got to learn how to start saying no, that sometimes like, no, I don't want to be involved in that, or, and you got to be okay with that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate that you're doing this. This is really cool. I've over the last couple of years, I've been not as much like I was saying like the last year, but I do a podcast with different educators from throughout the U.S. and it's really cool to just like you said, utilize the technology.
Yeah.
And then along the way, you're like learning different things and whatnot. So I was honored to be here with you, and and I just think you're doing awesome stuff in the city, and I look forward to our continued partnership.
Cool, man. Likewise. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So we'll stay safe, and it was good catching up with you. Hopefully we'll catch up soon too.
All right, you too, man. Be encouraged. I hope everything goes well with the family. Like you said, stay safe, and just keep rooting for each other, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, man. Have a good night.
All right, you too.
All right, take care.
Talk to you soon.
Yeah.